Hey there, Squirrel Army. It's time to tinker with Tinker Time, the March of the Machines precon deck. Alright, so we're here to upgrade Tinker Time, and as always, we have to look at our face commander to figure out what the heck's going on with this commander, with this deck, because usually the commander that's on the face of the deck gives you a really good guide as to what you're trying to do with this deck and some ideas that you want to brew around when you're looking at the list, because when you're just looking at a flat list, it can be very daunting. And it's one of those things, if you have this in the back of your mind or in the front of your mind, that this is what my commander's doing, or this is what my deck's, face is doing or wanting to do, it's a lot easier to go, okay, so this is what we're trying to do. This is the direction we're going in. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this. How do I win in this? So yeah, it just gives you a good frame of reference. So let's check it out. So Gimbal, Gremlin Prodigy, gives your artifacts trample. It's kind of cool. Then beginning of your end step, you create a 0/0 red goblin artifact creature token. And you put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is the number of differently named artifact tokens we control. Oh, I didn't realize this was tokens. I just read that as artifacts the first time I read this. So, that is really weird. Okay, that is super different. Okay, so we want to create differently named artifact tokens. Not just artifacts. Okay. Jeez. I hope there's a lot of cards in this deck that generate random tokens. Like, there's not none, but there's not a lot that I can, immediately think of. Like, Tireless Provisioner and Tireless Tracker come straight to mind. I don't know whether they're in the deck. I haven't looked at this point yet. So yeah, those could be good. Like, Gilded Goose is another one. That's not that amazing, but it's not terrible. We could do some, food, treasure, clue stuff. We are in food and treasure and clue kind of colors, so that wouldn't be too bad. Actually, we could have a lot of fun while doing that. We don't need to make our gremlins honestly that big. This is kind of a weird one. We're doing both +1 counters and token generation, so something like Doubling Season will be really good in a deck like this. But Doubling Season's a lot of money, and I don't know how many people want a very high end or higher budget end deck. A lot of people that I see with these decks, they want to see a budget upgrade, because a lot of the people that would upgrade a deck and put things like Doubling Season and that sort of stuff in these decks already know what they really want to do with a deck like this, so a guide like this doesn't help those people that much. And those are the type of people that I'm not really trying to target. I'm trying to target those people that are kind of newer or kind of don't really know what they kind of want to do with this deck, or maybe don't have the funds to go, well, I do want to do that, but I don't have $80. So, hey, Mr. YouTube man, please tell me some budget options that I can please put in this deck. Like, Parallel Lives would be good, obviously, but again, it's like $80 or whatever, so that's again another problem. Like, we could put in some of the counter doubling stuff or counter increasing stuff. I think we want to get more bodies though as well. But just doubling out any number of our tokens is just super good anyway. But that's kind of why those cards are super expensive as well. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. We want to do those things. Maybe, hopefully, Commander Masters will have them. But hey, we can't know that till when that's actually coming out. But it'll be coming out in like 5 more minutes anyway, so we'll know soon, probably. But it is what it is. But it's just like, that is such a weird thing. And I think we really need to. I probably need to research like different token names that are in these colors. There might be some new ones that they've kind of put in. What was the incubation? Are new ones. That's an artifact. So those could be useful. I don't think we're like that many incubation stuff. I don't know. I don't know much about the new set because I haven't looked at every single card. So maybe there could be some good stuff in that we could do. But yeah, I'm not 1,000%. Like again, like focusing in. How do we win? We've got to make a lot of goblins, a lot of big goblins that will smack our opponents with trample. That's how I think we've got to win here. So we've got to play a lot of artifacts or a lot of things that generate artifact tokens. Actually, I think it's not Mirrorworks, or is it Mirrorworks? Something like that creates, whenever you cast an artifact, you can pay 2 and you can create whenever you cast an artifact, you can pay 2 and create a token that's a copy of it. So that wouldn't be too bad. Things like that or whatnot. There aren't that many artifact token generators, honestly. So we'll probably be a bit stuck with that. But yeah, there's other ones that aren't artifacts. So that do produce artifacts here and there. So we've just got to look for those. So we better check out the deck list and see what we've actually got to work with, and then we'll figure it out.
You can join the Screw Army by subscribing.
Alright, so now we're having a bit of a look at the upgraded list. So you can see what I have done. $260 as the price, so that's quite a bit. As I said, a few missing cards due to the newer cards not turning up a whole lot, but it just takes way too long otherwise. So again, it's one of those things we have to deal with when we do these. We either have to wait forever to get these videos out, which aren't good because people want to see them quick and whatnot. So try to get them out as quickly as possible, but it is what it is. Everything takes time. But anyway, alright. Besides all that, before I go too deep into anything, I'm going to say again, if you guys don't really care about seeing what's what and knowing a little bit more information about why I cut things and why I added things or what the things are doing and whatnot, check out the deck list in the comments. You can just do whatever you want to do with that list. It makes it so much easier for those people that don't really care that much. They just want to see, oh, okay, cool, this is what the commander is, this is what it does, this is what the deck does, blah, blah, blah. And, understand, okay, well, this is what I'm getting myself into and whatnot, and this is what I can expect type thing. But for those people who do like to see how the deck all works and functions, because it is quite a bit to kind of figure out sometimes. Certainly we'll go through it, but I know some people just want to see the list and move on and whatnot, but whatever. It is what it is. Lands, not going to talk about much in the lands, as always. Just cut all the bad tap lands and just added a whole bunch of basics, so there's nothing to say there. And I'm not going to talk about the lands in the cuts, because that's why they got cut. So yeah, no point in talking about. So let's talk about the cuts. Arcane Signet, we're in green. We don't need this at all. Chaos Warp, it's not terrible, but I keep thinking when I'm playing decks like these, what are the permanents that worry us as far as we need to destroy this, or we need to exile this, or whatever it is. This specific one target thing. It's either artifacts or creatures. So if we can cover artifacts and creatures for the most part, and that and enchantments, we're just golden. We don't need something like this. 3 and 4 mana spells have to do a whole lot more nowadays, I feel, than what this does. So, yeah, I just don't love it. They get something for free, which can be the same thing or something worse. It could be something, you know, worse for them, but, worse for us. But again, it could be something better that they get off of it. So we don't want them to get something better. We don't want them to get to the same thing. We want them to get a random nothing, or whatever, something irrelevant. But most people's decks are built to have a lot of good things in them nowadays. So you're just hoping for an instant or sorcery or land. So it's just better to have something that does that. Turn it into a land or turn it into a nothing or whatever. So just no point. Crack open, just sorcery speed, not worth the time. I don't think most sorcery speed single target removal isn't usually worth it, even though it does make a token. The fiery confluence, I don't think it does enough damage in any of the modes that it does damage, so it's just not worth it, even if you get to choose 3 times. I don't think it's that worth it. Destroying an artifact, yeah, that's good, but doing that 3 times, there's usually not that many artifacts out that you super duper care about, plus it's sorcery speed, so no. Fractured Power Stone, again, we're green, we don't really need it. Signet, we're green, we don't really need it. The Demonstrator here, it does do damage to our opponents, but yeah, we're not. I don't know. Actually, this one could go back in. Actually, but like I don't know. It just seemed like one of the last cuts that I think I needed to make. Actually, so maybe that's all right. But it's not the best. But it's not obviously the worst. But yeah, you could definitely put that back in. Probably. I just forgot that I think I cut. It was one of the last cuts that I probably made. But yeah. The Hellkite, it's way too slow. 7 mana, and it does have haste, but to activate its ability, it's another 2 mana. By that time, we could have already just won the game, so just no. Not worth our time. The Elixir, again, we're not doing plane chase stuff, and we're not really. We're in green. We don't need this. We just don't need it. Imprison in the Moon, it's the same thing as Chaos Warp in that sense that it gets rid of a problem for us. But again, for the most part, we don't really need to do this. We can just kill their things or exile their things. We don't really need to turn their things into lands or whatever. Not worth our time. Signet, we're in green, not worth our time. The replication, again, these one-off effects I don't love unless they do a whole lot. So I just, cut it. Let's see. The search for the animus, I don't know. Like again, it's not terrible, but it's not efficient or cheap or anything like that. We're not a instant or sorcery deck. It doesn't make tokens, so that's not what we care about. Plus, we don't care about planeswalking. Like if you were making a planeswalk deck, there's a lot of new cards that do planeswalk stuff, so that's kind of cool. But that's not what we're doing here, so it's not really worth our time. Pierre Nakia. I don't know about this because it's a one-off mostly, and yeah, you can sacrifice some of your artifacts if you have a whole bunch, but the mana sink is just a whole lot, so just the engineer. Again, these one-off card draw effects aren't going to cut it, so just no. This one's actually kind of good. The destroy an artifact or enchantment, but again, sorcery speed, so that just kills it. So yeah, the Saheli's artistry. I think it's too much mana. Plus, again, one off of the effect. So just not really worth the time. Signet we don't need. The relic we don't need. I do think that the tokens this one makes are kind of good if you can get there. But again, it's if you can get there, and it takes so much effort to get there a whole lot of the time that I often find that it's just not worth it. The spine, like, what? Why do we need this in here? It doesn't do anything. It kills a thing for 7 mana? What? I don't know. Just, no. We don't need that. Stroke of Genius literally doesn't do anything for us. Draws us some cards, whatever. One-off card draw effects aren't going to be good. Thoughtcast, again, it can be really cheap, but one-off card draw effects just no. The damage dealing thing, it does make a token, but it's so little damage that it's just so irrelevant that it's probably not going to kill much of anything, so it's not really worth the time. Whirler Rogue, again, it's one-off effect, but yeah, like the tapping artifacts thing could be useful, but honestly would not like focused on one thing. So we'd need to tap most of our artifacts to get most of our other artifacts through. Though that can get around summoning sickness and whatnot and things like that, but still, I don't know. We can just find better and easier ways to get our stuff through than that. So, I don't know. Didn't add any planeswalkers. I don't think I added any sorceries either. So yeah. Actually, I'm forgetting. Where is it? Pause. I believe we only or I only added one of each an artifact and an enchantment. I added Storm the Vault, which is pretty darn good. Makes a whole bunch of treasures for us. When we hit our opponents, and then it flips into a land that taps for mana equal to the number of artifacts we control. So that's pretty strong. And Retrofit a Foundry. It makes a bunch of random tokens. A couple of them are artifacts. The last one isn't, but whatever. That's fine. It is a bit expensive, but still, I think it's a well worth card. Added a couple of instant and sorceries to the list. Added the Resculpt because a lot of this is just going to be good removal and a Nature's Claim. Actually, I probably should have added a bit more removal than that, but still, that's fine. I think it'll survive with this still. So. Far as creatures, we added an Adrix Nev. Actually, it's got I think that's the borderless price, but whatever. That's still fine. Just doubles our tokens. So any tokens we make twice as many, which is really good. I almost wish I was in blue with my token deck because this is just such a good card that I really wish I could fit it in. The Seed Shark, when we cast a non-creature spell, we incubate X, where X is the mana value of the spell. So it is pretty good. We don't have a ton of non-creature spells, but the Saheeli is in this deck. So I thought, well, that's okay. It doesn't need to trigger a million times to be really good. So I thought that's fine. The Ethereal Investigator, I'm not a super duper big fan of this guy, but he does do some stuff and he can be good in certain decks. Plus, he's a nice flyer, which is alright. He enters the battlefield, you investigate X times, where X is the number of opponents you have, you draw your second card on each turn, you get a 1/1 Spirit. The Spirit isn't an artifact, but whatever. At least you get the clues and whatnot. The Scavenger, getting the scraps is pretty good. Just another artifact that has a different name. Pretty useful. Gallia Greeters for more treasures. Oh, oops. Yeah. Uktabi is pretty good for us because even though we're giving away some artifacts to our opponents, when they use those artifacts, we're going to get some kind of benefit out of it. Plus, it benefits us, and we get probably to use the effect first. So I do think it can be good. There are maybe some other ones that are out there that I'm not thinking of, but that one seemed all right, not the worst, but yeah. Lonus, I like getting the investigates. You can use her other ability too, though I don't recommend it, honestly. It's not that amazing, in my opinion, most of the time. If you get something from your opponents, it's probably not going to synergize unless you're playing like a mirror match. So that's just not going to be that worth it for the most part. You're not going to get something that's super duper amazing most of the time. So just not worth it. The Loyal Apprentice getting the Thopter with haste is pretty good as well. So, um, the Prashari here, servos plus constructs, both of those are pretty good, and it's pretty cheap investment overall. So, uh, the Professional Facebreaker treasures are good, and getting to exile the top card whenever we choose, because we can choose when we want to do that, is pretty strong. When you have to do it and you don't have enough mana to cast the thing, it's always like, shit. you know. So it's just one of those things that I would rather, hopefully at least that you can cast it. If you go, oh yeah, I don't have anything above cost, blah 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 in my deck, it's probably going to be fine. Um, Svella, making the icy manoliths is pretty useful. Again, another type for us, and it does something else that's useful, giving us that kind of card advantage. Plus, it gives us the mana artifacts to kind of get to that. Plus, it helps us ramp into other things sometimes. It is fairly slow at doing all of that stuff, but again, it's not terrible. I think it's pretty darn good for this strategy specifically. The Iconolist, again, casting non-creatures, we get a 1/1 soldier artifact. I think that's alright. Again, we don't have a million instant sorceries or whatever, that sort of thing, but we do have some, so I do think it will trigger sometimes. Togo, rocks are good. We can throw rocks at people, dealing some damage, or deal some damage to our opponent's creatures, so can be good. Urza's pretty expensive, but still, I think he's well worth it because he also makes something that is so big and powerful that it can do a whole lot of work um, and whatnot later in the game. And you can just tap your artifacts for mana. He also has that activated ability, so he's just so amazing to doing a whole lot of stuff with what the deck kind of wants to do. So yeah. And Volo. The Volo's Journal, it's a very unique artifact, so you're not going to find that again. And when it gets a bunch of counters on it, we can draw a whole bunch of cards. So I think that's pretty darn good. So that is the cards. That I think that's all the cards. Hopefully it is. But that is definitely all I have here that I remember. But anyway, hope you guys think this is kind of cool, because I do. And you can let me know if you do. Write your thoughts down there in those comments. And hope to see you again in the next one.